Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and we finally get the full beta card list for the Gundam card game, and I'm super excited to jump on into it. I've been waiting for this for a couple weeks. I know a lot of you guys have as well, and I've been enjoying the game with the kind of tiny card pool that we have, but now that we have a pretty solid base of what this game looks like and what the cards look like, I'm really just excited to jump on into it. So in this video, we're going to go over a couple of the new cards that were dropped today that I'm kind of excited about, and then we're also going to have 3 example decks at the end. They're obviously pretty volatile. I won't say they're perfect, but I will be updating them on my website, Eggman Events, so you guys can make sure to see my most recent builds. And I plan to do a playtesting stream tonight as of this video coming out, which means that we are going to be able to get some games in, and it's going to be here on YouTube. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe if you guys want more Gundam content. And if you guys want to look at any of the cards or make proxies, make sure you use my deck builder, Eggman Events, which is again linked in the description. You can just press the gear and then go to proxies and can print out some of these decks that we're looking at too. But let's jump into some of the notable cards that were just announced today. All right, and so we've got about a dozen cards or so that I want to talk about that were announced today or recently. There are a couple of like single card releases that have happened in the last couple weeks that just weren't worth an entire video. So that includes Kira, which we're going to start off with. We were waiting for this pilot to be announced for a while. We saw a good amount of Strike Gundams that had this as our linked pair, but we just never saw the card in general, which made it a little bit harder to test with our limited card pool. But now that we have it, it does give +2 AP and +1 HP, but the attack is also choose one enemy unit. It gets -2 AP during this battle. And I think this is like not flashy, but I think it's going to be very strong. I would have kind of liked to see it be like maybe a +1, +2, so like you have like so much value on and being able to keep your units healthy if you have this paired with it. But this seems like a really strong card that if you're able to keep, again, the pilot paired like just very healthy, and you're able to just get a lot of value the longer this stays on board and the longer the unit stays on board too. So I think this one's going to be very good, and I think it's going to be also just kind of obnoxious with especially how like defensive a lot of like the high-end white cards and like the Strike Gundam stuff looks like in general. So we have that one real quick, and then also to kind of continue, we're going to go through a couple more white cards too. We just have the Strike Gundam. This is just a standard one from the star deck, but it has this deploy. You get to draw one and discard one. We don't have a lot of like card draw or card cycle in this game right now, so I think that's pretty good for this deck too. It is Kira as our link as well, so that does just work well with the with our pilot that we just announced. And I think this is just a standard if you have nothing better to do, and if you're already kind of playing like a Strike Gundam package, this is a pretty good card to include with it too. Next up, we've got the Perfect Strike Gundam as well, and this is a link with any Earth Alliance trait card, so it does get some more flexibility with it. It is a blocker, it's a 4/4, and has this deploy of choose one enemy unit with 1 HP, return it to its owner's hand. And I really like this effect. I think there are so many kind of instances, especially against green, where they make these 3/1 tokens a lot of the time. We just can't interact with them very healthily. It just takes a lot to be able to attack into something. We feel like we're getting like such a negative trade, and it's hard to get any like value when they're able to do that. So we're going to use this one, I think, as kind of a kickoff point to blue. Most of the, I feel like white cards were kind of already shown off, or at least the ones that I was excited about. But I was kind of worried about like how good just like units with 1 HP and a lot of AP were, because they almost always force trade. So we have the Perfect Strike Gundam, and we also do have the Darlbald. My apologies on pronunciation on some of these, but same kind of thing, but deploy, choose one enemy unit with 1 HP, gets returns to its owner's hand. So it's a little bit cheaper. It's a level 3 and it's a cost 2. It's also more of the academy, so this is more of like Suela and other academy based pilots can use this as a link pair. So it's a little bit more open for what you're using with it. And obviously with Soletta, you are able to make it a 5/4, which is really good. Like that's just really, really good stats for a card like this. That's also able to get some tempo. If you return tokens that are 1 health back to your opponent's hand, they actually just get removed from the game by game mechanics too. So that does cause some removal, and it's really good against green if that deck's going to be strong with all the tokens it's able to make. So I do like that kind of stuff. But blue also does have some ways to interact with this. We have the gun tank, which is a level 2, 1 cost. You get to choose 1 rested enemy unit and deal 1 damage to it. So this can just get you in range of like a lot of great removals. It's also on a body that paying 1 cost for a 1/2 body is just fine for what this game is right now. We don't have a link pair with this, but that's kind of fine and standard with how it is for like the lower level cards for this and the lower level units. But I think this is like a good like 1 or 2 copies just to be able to like if you need to get like that 1 extra damage in, this can really help you and fit in a lot of spots, especially since it only cost 1, which is really nice. And then lastly, we also have the thoroughly damaged. This is essentially the same thing, but it's just choose 1 rested enemy unit. You can deal 1 damage to it, but it's also with Hayato as a pilot, so you can use this as a +1 health. It's also Earth Federation, which is good for a couple cards that exist in this game. You can link with a couple cards and get that too. So, you know, do you want it on a command? Do you want it on a body? Do you want to be able to be more flexible with it as being a pilot to give 1 more health to something? This also works really well with the gun cannon, which we have and we'll show off in some of the decks. But I do like this card existing too. I think there's just like a lot of weird situations when testing before I knew this card existed, where I'm like, man, that thing has 1 HP. And I can't clear it without it doing like 4 damage to one of my bigger units, which really stinks. So I do like having those kind of like little ping damages exist in this game from set 1. And then we also have a couple more of these white base team cards. So we've got G Fighter. It's deploy. Choose 1 of white base team unit. It gets high maneuver during this turn, which it can include itself because it is that. And then also it's just any white base team trait card, or sorry, pilot can be a link pair for it. So being able to use that and attack the turn you're played, as well as be able to get high maneuver. This can be like a really good like end game kind of scenario to where you can just kind of attack, and it's a little bit tricky for some decks to kind of interact with it. So I think that's strong. I think that's just great. You can always obviously give it to other things, and I think this is just a solid card all around as well. Next up, we've got the Gundam MA form. So this is a level 5 3 cost unit. It has only a link with Amru. However, it has this when paired with a white base team pilot. So any of our white base team pilots, you get to draw a card, which again, drawing cards is pretty rare in this game, where it's a little bit expensive. So obviously I still think you want to use Amaru for this, and if you use Amaru, you're able to make it a 6/4, which is pretty good stats for this, and then you still get to draw the card, right? You can still use any of the white base team cards too, to just get like a free cycle if you need it, which is not too terrible. And I think like the Star Deck Gundam is still like better than this one, but I think you run this at a couple copies because it can get pretty large as well. But I like the card, and being able to jump into like a 5, I think like 5 AP is kind of like a good limit for things to hit, which this can easily get to with a pilot. So I do like the addition of this in the card pool too. And then we're going to green. Green kind of has like this kind of like hidden archetype that wasn't really shown before this, but now we see a lot of it, and a lot of it's kind of around the Operation Meteor trait cards. But we're going to start with the Wu Fei. This is a +2/+1 on a pilot. Then also during your turn, if this unit has breach, it can't be receive battle damage from units with 3 or less AP. So being able to use this to get some really good value is really nice. Being able to like attack, not only are you wanting to attack into units anyways when you have breach, because you can go 2 for 1, but you also just kind of go 2 for 0 if they're not even going to be dealing damage to you a lot of the time. It just means that you are able to deal damage, get rid of cards on their board, and this just seems really, really strong on its surface. So this is just kind of the Wu Fei, but we do have a good amount of cards that just work really well with this idea of a green breach deck, which is one of the decks we're looking at for us at the end. But we have our Shenlong Gundam. This is the one for Wu Fei as it is. It just has breach 3, so clearly you can put the Wu Fei underneath it. We're a 6/4, and then we can attack the turn it's played, and then it has breach. And if you're playing attacking to something that's lesser than 3 AP or less, you just don't even take the damage, which is really, really nice. So that can just be a good kind of pivot point there. And then we also do have the heavy arms. This just also, if you are paired, you do get the breach. So you can use Wu Fei with this. This becomes a 5/5 with breach 3, which has the same kind of mechanics. It is with Troa, which means that you don't get the attack on the turn it's played if you use it with the Wu Fei, but you still get some good value with it, and it's kind of like a good like fifth and sixth copy of the Shenlong. But we're also just playing the Troa, which is a new card that is for this too. So it is a command pilot. It's simultaneously simultaneous fire. You get to choose one unit. It gets breached 3 during this turn. And also based on the new rule mechanics that they dropped a couple days ago too, if something has breach 3 and you give it breach 3, it's additive. So if you already have like the Wu Fei over here within the Shenlong. So if this already has breach 3 and they use the Troa effect, you're able to now have breach 6, which generally breach 5 is where you want to get to, because it does let you hit into most bases. Well, at least every base they've announced so far. I'm sure we're going to get a base that has more than 5 HP, but that can be very good and help you convert into that. But it's also like a 1/1 pilot that you can use with the Gundam heavy arms and get that additional value too. So last kind of cards we're going to talk about, we got Rickdom. This is just a breach 2 card. This would obviously work really well with Troa too, because then you can make it breach 5, which again is kind of like the best you need, like the highest amount of breach you need before like you're not really caring how much damage you're doing the stuff in the shield area, which is really great. And then lastly, we do have just a kind of ad of the Magnanock. This is a just important because of the Sandrock Gundam, so Gundam Sandrock, because they do get to play a one of the corpse from your hand for free whenever you play this. So being able to just see what that card looks like is fine, and just the fact that it's a 2-drop that's able to be at like a 3/2 body is pretty standard for what this is. So being able to play it free later in the game if you have extra ones in your hand, I think is some good value and can help out get some tempo as well. So all of these cards are again, you can look at them on my website, Eggman Events. They've been announced, and it's been really cool to just kind of theory craft in my head on what some of these synergies are as well. So we're going to go over to the example decks. We're going to look at the 3 I've been working on presently. All right, and let's get to the example decks. And again, these are just new decks. These are not optimized or tested in really any way. These are just the ones that I've been trying to think about, like what's the best ways to kind of get started on some of these different builds and synergies. The deck building in this game is really open, since the only restriction is you have to have 2 or less colors in your deck as it is. And because of that, there's a lot of synergies that you can kind of take advantage of, which I think is really interesting. So we have 3 decks, every color combination. So we have a green-blue deck, a green and white deck, and a blue and white deck. These are not the only ways to build these color combinations in any regard too, but I will be continuing to update my website, Eggman Events, on the team page with my personal builds. You guys can check that out right now. So likely when you're watching this video right now, the builds that you see on screen are worse than the ones that are on the website. So you can make sure to check that out for the best up-to-date versions of some stuff that I'm working on. But we're going to start off with the green and blue one. This is maybe like a little bit of a safer one, but this is kind of like a Wing Gundam ramp deck, with the idea that we have just some ways to get up to level 5 pretty quickly, primarily through the Wing Gundam bird mode, which we've seen for a while, as well as the first contact, which is really strong. This one's like, I've been liking it a little bit less since I first seen it, but especially since bird mode exists, but being able to use that to get there is really nice. And then generally this is like one of the strongest cards in the game right now, if I'm being super honest. The fact that with Hero you get to make this a 7/7 in which breach 5 that also can attack active units, like it's kind of unparalleled how strong this card is in a lot of ways. So we kind of are based on getting this more consistently. I'm only playing 3 copies of it right now. I could jump down to a couple less if I wanted to, or a couple more, sorry, jump this to 4 and maybe kind of change some ratios. But I think 3 is okay from here. But if you want to jump up to 4, you definitely can. And just the fact that we have so many different things that are good value on level 5 as well. The other things are the Unicorn mode. This is just good for like consistent card draw and cycle. So you can use Unicorn Gundam on level 5, play it for 4, use the effect of the links here to pair with it. And then when paired, if this is a link unit, you get to draw a card. So at level 5, you get to get a 6/5 that is able to not only draw you a card, but then you can cycle a card if you need to, if you want to keep this links in your hand too. So I think that's very strong. It helps you get consistency. And even though like this can link with anything, right? Like this can this can pair with anything, right? So this gets +2/+2 to any of your units if you need that, and that's a lot of value in a lot of ways. So most pilots are like +2/+1 or like +1/+1. So to just have like a static +2/+2 for any of your units is really good. So So I think that's strong for the deck in general. And then we are again running like more of the hero stuff, being able to Wing Gundam here. We also have the bird mode, which we can make a 5/5, or sorry, a 5/4 with our hero effect. Again, 5 power is kind of like the stepping point. Like that's like the maximum you need for most situations outside of like a Wing Gundam kind of situation. But I think that's very strong. And then we also do run the Sandrock, since we do know what the we do have the 2 drops to go with it now, so we can play these out for free. Which is another great way to get some value, and that's just, I think, strong for you. So we do have a good amount of like other 1 drops. We have the 2 drop with the Lodo too. I have also kind of thought about playing like the gun tank. So this card is super good as well. We're just playing the thoroughly damaged, but that can change between the two if you like one or more. One of them more than the other one, but the fact that you can use this with like the Lotto to become a 2/3 link, so you can attack the turn you play it, is kind of nice. So we're also playing the Quatre, being able to use this to be a 1/1 with the Sandrock to get like a 5/5 with rush the turn you play it is really nice, but the action effect from this is actually pretty good too. So during this battle, your shield cards can't receive damage from enemy units that are level 4 or lower. So this can just kind of buy you an extra life if you really need to, which is really great as well. So I think this deck is pretty strong. I think the only other thing is I'm using St. Gabriel's Institute. I do think like the other one, the Xeon one, whose name is the Fall Mail, this card's, I think, might be better still, but since we're a little bit more particular about finding our link pairs and some specific cards to help us get to 6 or level 6 as soon as possible, I'd rather have like the more consistency than like the board presence early on for a deck like this. But this is the first build of a Wing Gundam, Wing Unicorn Gundam. So but I'm really excited to do some more testing with this one in particular. Next up, we've got the green. I'm just calling this like green breach. We're using white as kind of like a supporting color for it, but you'll notice that this is mostly a green deck, and I think that's fine. I think you're okay to just mostly lean on one color. One Piece does have like multicolor decks a lot of the time, but more times than not, you're mostly just playing one color is like grossly more than the other one in a lot of builds. So and in this one, we're just kind of taking advantage of all the aggression and breach effects we have too. We're still using like Char Zaku #2, which is just great for value. This becomes a 5/3 with a Char underneath it. You're able to play a token with it too, which is really good, and it just gets a lot of value. We're running a lot of our just more value based, more breach based cards, right? So we have our Rick Dom here being able to be a breach too. We have Heavy Arms and Shenlong, which we kind of talked about earlier, and we still are running like the Sandrock package to be able to get more bodies on the board. But this is like a low to the ground aggro deck. This is trying to use the breach effects that we have so easy access to get more value for it, and being able to like this, the Wu Fei is, I think, one of the better cards in this deck. Again, just so much pressure with breach on one of our 3 units, right? We have 3 different units that this can take advantage of, and by doing so, we are able to clear the board, make it difficult for our opponents to establish stuff, and also deal damage to them, which I think is going to be really impactful. So the only kind of white cards we're playing are Overflowing Affection, just for like more consistency on seeing some of our early pieces if we need to, as well as playing the Darl Blade as well. Or, I always call it Darl Blade. Darl Baldi, I think, is the better pronunciation for it. But this being able to just kind of interact with something on your opponent's board for pretty cheap, but that's not needed as much. And then again, if you like Fall Mode just more than St. Gabriel, play 4 copies of this card. I think this is just really good for being able to be a base, being able to draw a card from your life essentially, and being able to play a 3/1 unit. All of that just seems really good in this game too. So this might just be like too weak. I haven't tested it a lot, but when I've been seeing all these breach effects, I think this is like one of the better ways to just build a deck. And I know it's, again, mostly green, and we could be shifting this. This could be green blue if you really wanted it to, so it's a bit of just a green deck, but it looks like it's going to be very strong with, again, all the breach effects. So lastly, we do have a blue and white deck, and this is going to be more of like the Gundam as well as Gundam Aerial, just with a combination of all of the additional cards that we have that are commands and taking advantage of like Overflowing Affection. We have just so many like Earth Federation pilots that are the hybrid commands, which do count towards cards such as the Gundam Aerial. Obviously, being able to make this cost 1 is really easy, I think, in this deck in comparison to others, as well as the Michaelis, which is able to make itself a 5/5 if you do have a 5/6 if you have a Suletta Mercury underneath it, or another Earth Federation, which there are some other Earth Federation, some Academy cards that pilots we could be using, but we're just going to be using the Suletta for this one. But Earth Federation and like the white base team does have like just a good amount of cards and just units to take advantage of, like all the linking too. So I talked about, we have the G Fighter. We also have the gun cannon, which being able to use this with now the thoroughly damaged Hayato makes it a 2/4, which means with repair 1. So this just means you have some really good synergy with it. It also means that you can use the thoroughly damaged with the gun cannon. And it's when paired effect, you are able to rest something, you can attack into it, you get the health back from it, and it just means that you get some like early game like bully with this gun cannon by having that in there, which I think is really strong. You can also use it with the Kai, which being able to make it a more aggressive 3/3 stat line, but I do again making it a 2/4 I think is very strong too. If you want to play 4 copies of this thoroughly damaged though, I think that's not too bad, since you do want more commands to be able to get your additional effects for, again, like the Michaelis as well as the Gundam Aerial. I am running like 2 copies of Gun Tank though, so if you want to switch up those ratios, you can. And then our top end is not like super big compared to like Wing Gundam, but we've got the standard RX-78-2 Gundam here from the starter deck. This just gets a lot of value since it does have this repair too. So again, in being able to make it like like the +1 health from thoroughly damaged, or the +2 health from Suletta, both these just really help out the deck a lot. And it's a during pair effect, not during link effect, for the effect for everything getting +1. So if you have Suletta in here, this ends up being on your own turn a 5/6, which again is a pretty good stat line. Just means that it's harder for you to get removed, and you still get to get some really good trades, and you still have your repair too. And then we also have like the MA form. This is like some backup copies. This one's like a little bit more aggressive leaning since it's a 4/3 body, and you can get some card cycle if you have like the thoroughly damaged and it's not doing anything for you. But obviously you want the Amuro with that as much as you can. But we have like the Witch and the Bride. We have Overflowing Affection. We have Show of Resolve, and then we have the School of Technology. Just in case like we need that extra little damage here. I don't like the blue and white bases as much right now. The white base itself might just be worth it to put in this deck, but there are some like weird scenarios, specifically like with Suletta as well as Gundam Aerial. With just these two, it just becomes a 4/5, which means you can attack 5 into bases. So being able to have this Earth House lets you just bump that up and make it a 5/5 and get some good value, which I think is nice. So overall, I think this deck is pretty good. I do like, obviously it gives us a challenge, right? It says if you give us enough of these command cards in your trash, you are able to get some rewards with this Aerial as well as this Michaelis, and I think that's worth it in the long run. But we'll see if it is like if there's just kind of better things to do. But I do like, given like like again like a quest or something to do while playing the game to get some benefits as well. But that's going to be it for my example decks. Again, the decks that you're seeing in this video are likely going to be way worse than the ones that are currently on my website, Eggman Events, so make sure to check that out when you can. I'm planning on making a lot of content, a lot of playtesting in the next couple weeks too, so make sure again to hit that like and subscribe. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys are able to build with these cards as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.